Hey guys, this week we are talking about Chris's recent Vegas trip, finding the right MGM casino, and a whole lot more, so stick around. This episode is sponsored by TravelZork Travel. Learn more at TravelZorkTravel.com.
Welcome to the Crap Vegas Podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 77 of the Crap Vegas Podcast. I am Chris. He is Josh. Josh, what's going on?
Well, so we're going to talk about your trip to Las Vegas in the middle of the show. But Chris, the same time Chris was at Las Vegas, I was at the Cirque du Soleil show Cusa.
Is it just like Zubanity?
Oh, very much so. No, we took the kid for a kid's birthday and two other friends.
Well, that's inappropriate, Josh. Jeez, come on now.
Yeah. So, Chris, I was reading about the show and you know, it said in this Cirque du Soleil show, the clown finds this whatever. There's this whole backstory.
Sure.
That Cirque du Soleil. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't get that at all. I never get the Cirque du Soleil stories.
I don't usually get the plot of their shows either, but they're fun.
They're fun. It had the kids like the Wheel of Death the best.
Yes.
You remember the Wheel of Death?
I've seen it multiple times. Yeah, it's very fun.
We, as part of our package, we had a VIP package, and as part of the...
Don't worry. I wasn't even going to ask because I knew that was the case.
My wife said she got it really because you get special bathrooms. She wanted the VIP bathroom, which was really... Well, I didn't use the regular ones, but they were just glorified porta potties, but they had sinks in them and stuff, so, you know.
Oh, I mean, that's nicer.
But my wife was disappointed because we got a program with the VIP package. We got a little gift bag, a little swag bag, and the program had pictures of what the show was. And, you know, they have the contortionist act. They've always got the contortionists. And we had two in the show, but there were three in the pictures. And my wife's like, we got shortchanged. We only got two contortionists and not three.
Wow. Yeah, look at them. And then we filed a lawsuit.
We want our money back.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. False advertising. Yeah, geez, Josh.
Anyway, it was it was a really fun show. I think it was the last show of the run here in the Seattle area. So they brought out the stage manager at the end and had them go up on stage and all that kind of stuff. So it was a fun show. Like Cirque du Soleil, it was very much like the Vegas shows, you know, with the exception of it was the usual Cirque du Soleil thing. And I was thinking about it versus the Spiegelworld shows and just how I like Cirque du Soleil and the acts are always fun, but for Vegas, I love the Spiegelworld feel. You know, there's just something more. And I think that's the reason Absinthe is so popular and Atomic Saloon and so on.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When you think iconic Vegas shows, Cirque du Soleil has a big part of that. They're kind of the father of the whole setup for that kind of show. And then Spiegelworld came in. They took that format and just added a certain level of raunchiness and humor that aren't present in Cirque du Soleil shows typically.
Right.
And yeah, it took it to a new level. And I definitely prefer Spiegelworld shows, but Cirque still has a nice place in my heart, Josh. And I like seeing O and not so much Ka, but Beatles Loves, it's fine. So there's some options.
Yeah. Well, except I don't think Love is still open.
It's not. But you know what? When it was great.
Right. But no, it was really fun to see. I'm glad I got to see a Cirque du Soleil show. Now I don't have to see one in Vegas for a while.
No, perfect. We're all set then. We'll just go see Zombie Burlesque next time we're in town.
Exactly. The burlesque show, as we found out.
Yes, exactly.
How about you? What's going on with you?
Not much. Just really busy recently, like usual. Dance season still going.
Dad, yeah.
Yeah, Josh got text from me over the weekend. I spent 15 and a half hours this weekend sitting in a convention center to see my daughter dance a combined, I think, 12 minutes. Maybe 14, I can't remember, but just a lot of time. They did really well, so I was very proud of her. But just long weekends right now, and I will be glad when we hit summer and things start to calm down. Okay, Josh, well, let's tell people how to get a hold of us. You can send us an email, that is podcast@crapvegas.com. You can join us over on our Facebook page. Josh will talk to you over there, respond to your messages. Josh
Unlike Chris.
He is the liaison for everything that happens over there. That's crapvegas.com/Facebook. You can leave us a voicemail, crapvegas.com/voicemail. You can join us over on Twitter.
X.
He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13, or the show page is at Crap Vegas. or we'd love to have you join us over on our Patreon page. That is patreon.com/crapvegas. And we are still offering that 1-week trial that I know a lot of people have taken us up on. So we'd love to have you join us over there.
Absolutely.
Previous episode feedback. Josh, we received a message from Austin talking about walking away a winner. That's a topic we had on a recent episode. He said that session bankroll strategy is close to mine, but I modified it to get longer sessions and not have a finite buy-in stack. I buy in for 20 to 30 times minimum. He can get away with 10 times on PieGow, he says. Once my win stack hits 4 to 5 times my minimum bet, I bank that win stack. If my buy-in stack runs out and there's enough in my win stack to keep going, he keeps going. When there's nothing left in the buy-in stack and less than minimum in the win stack, I cash out the bank. I've tried to do this in craps, but sessions end sooner than I'd like, so still trying to modify where it works there. So what do you think about that kind of idea, Josh?
I like it, Austin. And I'm thinking about for craps. I mean, if I kind of understood what you were saying, right? Let's just say kind of average, Chris and I buy in, our minimum bet is $600 cross-ish on a craps table. So we'd want to get to about 6,000 and put that in the bank. That's actually not far off of kind of where I think we tend to sit sometimes as far as locking things up. It's a little high.
I don't think it's, but I've never thought about it from the same way that he does, Josh.
Yeah.
But I think that that's not a bad system, creating a win stack to move that, into play. And then if it's not big enough, then we just cash out at that point. It kind of limits the losses, if nothing else.
It does. I like it. And some sort of system to walk away at some point is good to at least have in the back of your mind.
I agree 100%. Josh, another topic we talked about that I didn't think would get a lot of feedback, but absolutely did, was our discussion of Excalibur versus Oyo. And I feel like going back to the last episode, you and I were quite definitive that Excalibur was much better than Oyo.
There was no question in our minds. It didn't matter if it was comped or not.
Turns out that's a very controversial take. We got a response from Sean over on our Patreon page about this episode. Sean said, I completely understand the response to Excalibur over Oyo, and I tend to agree when it comes to room quality, although both are pretty terrible. However, as a craps player, I have to disagree that Excalibur is a better place to play than Oyo. I have always found Oyo crews to be more professional, much faster, and much funnier than Excalibur craps crews. Excalibur craps dealers feel like your experience that I had at Borgata, Josh, where they're all kind of newbies trying to break in, get to a better property. He said he's had really good experiences there when he's made dealer bets and tipped. They've been very appreciative. Service has been good. And he said, if you're a low-level craps player, and he said $1,000 buy-in or less, he would absolutely recommend giving Oyo the chance over Excalibur.
Well, Sean, yeah, Chris is absolutely right. I didn't expect anybody to defend Oyo.
I didn't either.
But at the same time, I haven't played craps at Oyo, if ever, or at least not in 10 or 15 years, whatever it was, maybe I did when I stayed when I stayed, I guess it wasn't even Oyo, it was Hooters when I stayed there, and I maybe played craps. I don't even remember, but that's good to know. I mean, I'm glad that they've got something going for them. I'm glad the craps are fun. In a way, as you're saying it makes a little bit of sense that maybe the dealers at Excalibur aren't, if you think at MGM as the Excalibur being the starting, the proving grounds for new dealers or dealers just breaking in, like I could see them moving the better ones up faster, maybe through the MGM portfolio.
Sure, yeah.
And whereas Oyo is what it is. And so, you might get lifers at Oyo that are actually good dealers that stick around. I'm just thinking, but it makes sense.
Now, Sean didn't mention it, and I'm not 100% sure, Josh, but is Oyo a keep your own sort of place for tips?
I can't remember.
I mean, that could explain some of it if that was the case. I don't know if it is or not. I'm just posing the question. I'm sure somebody will chime in. Last time I walked through Oyo, I did not stay and play. It was literally just to see what it looked like after they did the remodel.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not missing much there in my eyes, at least. But we also got some more feedback from Jordan P. over on the Patreon page about it, Josh. He said, Oyo is 5 times greater than Excalibur. Have to agree and back up everything Sean said. I was part of that awesome session where we were able to tip the dealers nicely. They even remembered us after we came back 6 months later.
Well, could it be, though, Jordan and Sean, that because you're the only ones that play craps there?
Or you're the only ones that tipped there in the past 6 months? I mean, that could be it, too. I'm not ruling that out. But yeah, Josh, so it's good to hear some feedback on that because that's not an area that we're going to spend a lot of time playing over there.
No, absolutely. But if you are looking for low-limit craps, it sounds like Oyo might be worth a try.
Absolutely. Okay, let's keep it moving. Okay, so Josh, recently I took my first real Vegas trip of the year, which is crazy to say considering it was the middle of March when I took it.
I know, I don't even
went
know
out
you
to,
anymore.
I know. It's almost as bad as you not playing craps when you're on a Vegas trip.
There
I
is-
don't know how
there
the
is
hell
that
that
too.
happens.
Shh,
That
yeah.
did not happen to me. I will say that. But Josh, I got out to Venetian Palazzo recently for a couple days. It was actually really just like a 29-hour trip by the time it was all said and done. Got there on a Friday. I was out on the red eye at 1 o'clock Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Right.
But Josh, had a really good time, got to meet some listeners. I know you have a bunch of questions, a lot to talk about. Let's go from there.
Absolutely. Well, we got to start off with, you said you went out there for like 29 hours. You didn't leave early.
I did not. I
This
usually
was the
leave.
time you planned to leave.
It was. My flight was booked for the red eye. You know what I did, Josh? I just skipped a step. I just didn't book the flight for Sunday morning at 6 a.m. like I normally would to
There we
take
go.
the red
Right.
eye out. I just went ahead and booked the red eye. So I knew it was coming and I didn't have to worry about last minute changes.
But at least you didn't have to let anybody down. Sometimes
I did not.
You're notorious for letting down listeners who think that you're going to be there Sunday morning and you never even said you were going to be there
Listen,
Sunday
if you
morning.
have expectations of me being there on a Sunday morning, you're in big trouble.
See, this was good though. You set expectations exactly right. So let's
I did.
start with, of course, we don't even talk about your travel unless you had any stories, but
No, nothing crazy.
you got the ESS room.
Yeah, Josh is, I think it stands here. Let me see if I remember this. Elliptical
Uh-huh.
super shower.
Elliptical super shower room. Right.
Staying at the Palazzo Tower. Still one of the dated suites. They haven't done the updates over there yet, but stayed in Josh's favorite room that has the elliptical in it that I did not use, in a shower that has about 74 jets in it that can take the paint off of pretty much anything. Yeah, I really do like those rooms, Josh. They're very spacious. I really appreciate having that separate dining table.
Mhm.
So when you're having room service, and they hadn't done this before for me, but when they came in, I actually ordered my food in to-go containers like I usually do.
Right.
But this time they disregarded that fact and brought it on a thing. And they brought in a tablecloth and laid it over the full table.
I had that too last
and
time,
did the
I
full
think.
setup right there.
Yeah.
It was actually really nice. I didn't expect that. And I tried some different stuff food-wise this time. And it was okay. Like I said, it's not the best room service in the world, but it was fine this time. No complaints for me.
Anything food-wise that leapt out worth mentioning specifically as a decent?
No, I
thing?
had some sort of grilled chicken
Okay.
that was not terrible. I guess that's the nicest thing I can say. It was
No
not
higher
terrible.
praise. Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, their salads are not bad. The grilled chicken wasn't bad. I had a dessert. I can't remember what it was. Some sort of chocolate dish that was pretty good.
There we go.
So yeah,
It was
nothing
edible.
too impressive, but it was better.
So the first thing Chris texted me when he got there on Friday was the Starbucks is gone.
That was the most shocking thing at the time, Josh. I couldn't believe it. Staying in the Palazzo Tower, you get so used to coming down to the bottom of the elevator
Mhm.
tower, and there's a Starbucks right there on your right as you're leaving the elevators. It's easy. It's convenient. I go there at 6 a.m. in the morning when I'm
I
coming
usually
down.
meet Chris. I come
Yep.
about 5 minutes late and he's knee deep in the line. Right.
I'm in the line because there's always a long line there. It was gone. It was completely walled off. Turns out, fast forward, Josh knew this. And last time
Well,
he was there,
I didn't know that it was gone. I knew they were
You knew that-
building something.
Oh, okay. I thought the wall was up last time you were there. You're saying
No.
it wasn't.
I still had the Starbucks.
Okay, fair enough. But there was a wall up for me, and I was like, "What? You got to be kidding me!" So I actually walked all the way out to the middle, in between Venetian Palazzo,
Right.
and went to the Starbucks out there to get my actual morning coffee, which is fine. It's a huge Starbucks. You can get in and out pretty quickly. It's kind of their convention one, Josh, if you're heading down
Right.
that hallway. But later on, I actually found out the Starbucks isn't completely gone. They just moved it. It's now over where the sundry shop area used to be on the Palazzo Tower floor. So if you're heading out from the elevators, take a right, walk down by the bathrooms. It's just past the restrooms now. So it's there. It's back open. I don't know what they're doing at the base of the elevators, but it's not gone completely.
I bet you. I wonder. I'm curious about what they open, but I'm glad to know there is still a Starbucks at Palazzo. I always like that one in between the conference center, area.
Yeah, it's a
I'm going
nice
to call it when you're. Yeah, that's one of my favorite Starbucks. Actually, just to if you have some time to kill to go in and sit and relax, and it's a nice space. It's usually unless there's a big conference going on, it's fairly low traffic. But I'm glad there's one on the Palazzo floor still.
No, I agree with you. And because I actually don't like the one that's over at Venetian in their main entrance area because it's too far away from the elevators. It's way off the gaming floor. So you really have to want to walk over there to get a coffee.
Right. So, Chris, one of the first things I know that we did our little group poll on that Friday.
We did.
And
I completely forgot about that, honestly.
yeah. Well, I remembered because I was thinking about the Cirque du Soleil show and Kazoo, right. And I'm at Cirque du Soleil show. We're sitting in the audience waiting for the show to start. And I'm texting with Chris as we're doing our slot pull. So that's,
I'm glad I didn't.
remember.
I was going to FaceTime video call you. I'm glad I didn't. That wouldn't have worked
I'm
as well.
sitting there in the middle of the theater with my phone up watching slot machine videos.
That was the second. Yeah, this is the second time we've done that this year, where the first time I Venmo'd Josh $1,000 and said, here, let's put it together for a pull. He Venmo'd me this time. We did the same thing. Both times, Josh, did not work.
Well, although on the one that we did where I was playing, at least we hit an $1,800 hand pay. We ended up giving it all back, but you didn't even have that. We didn't even have that with yours.
We didn't have a single hand pay. And Josh, I was a little concerned because I played those slots with you. We ran out of our money. I started playing my own. I wasn't having any luck at all on the slots that night. And I was starting to think, is this going to be one of those trips where I just don't get any hand pays? Because those happen.
Right.
And those really suck the way that we play when those days happen. And yeah, Josh, so it started off pretty poor for me from that perspective. And so I was like, I was a little negative to start my Friday evening.
You were, but then you went and played craps. And what's amazing about this is, well, first I think you played some video poker. You sent me a text that you'd played some video poker. You can fill in the gaps, but then you went and played craps. And I think you had a good session that first night, but I'm getting texts from Chris at 9:00 on a Friday night that he's at the craps table. And I'm like, you never do that with me.
Well, to be fair, I didn't even get there into the hotel until like 5:45.
All right. You had to get your gambling in, right?
I did. I had to get some initial gambling in. And yeah, so I had a crap session that night. I played at a table by myself. Josh, went terrifically. For a first session playing solo, I was well more than doubled up the first night. I think I took $5,000 up to about 13 or 14 that first night or so, maybe a little higher before I played it back down a little bit. And it was all because I just had one really amazing roll. Did not make them all, which was surprising, but I did hit a side a couple times. It was just one of those things where you were hammering every number. Every time you were making a hard way bet, it was hitting. It was just one of those great rolls that you get once every 3-6 months. And since I was by myself, it only lasted probably 20, 25 minutes.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be that long when you're by yourself.
Right. And that was on the main floor Palazzo. Where were you?
Main floor, Palazzo, traditional craps, nothing crazy. And yeah, I can say honestly, for the whole weekend, Josh, I did not play a single ounce of crapless craps.
Well, some people would say that's a good thing. You know, those of us would say that's too bad you didn't get one session in. But
I didn't even walk into the high limit table area at Palazzo, Josh, to even see if that crew we like was there.
Oh, interesting. I know that you walked into the high limit slot area.
Oh, yes.
One thing you texted me about food offerings. You mentioned at one point they had the pan au chocolat.
Oh, now that was at Venetian's high limit.
Oh, that was in the lounge there. Venetian.
Yes, that was in their lounge. Palazzo, they do have snacks available during the day. It's hidden. You would never know it's there unless you walk to that back corner of that room that you cannot see from the main floor. And they just have the normal cookies and trail mix and sometimes M&M's, stuff like that. And I partook in a cookie.
A cookie or two, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had one. They were pretty good. So that is there. No, Venetian, Josh, in their high limit lounge, during the day, before they got to like the desserty stuff, especially in the mornings, they had fresh croissants. They had pan au chocolat. They had a lot of really nice offerings in there, in addition to the trail mix and the M&Ms and stuff.
There you go.
And I will say, I actually spent a decent amount of time back in that room. I watched some basketball back there, just sitting in one of the chairs, had a cookie, and during the day, they had bottles of water all stacked out there for you. So you could just grab your own bottle of water when you grabbed a cookie and stuff. No, I spent a decent amount of time back there just calming down. Nobody ever goes back there. They just don't.
I know. I don't see many people back there at all.
I don't think people know that area exists. And there are high limit bathrooms back there. They're not as nice as the ones at like Wynn or anything like that.
Right.
And in fact, I found the floors to be quite disgusting and sticky,
that's
which is not good for high limit. But at the same time, it is nice having that space back there to take a break when you want to take a break.
Speaking of not nice high limit bathrooms, the bathrooms in the cave at Aria, at the in the cave, I always found to be oftentimes not as clean as I would like them to be too.
I agree. I much prefer the one in the main Aria. I won't call it the main high limit area because it's not that big, but the one where the other table games are over there across from there, that actually has a relatively nice bathroom there.
So I have in my notes, Saturday morning, Chris, you've now adopted my thing of starting with a little slot session before you go to craps. You played a little Mo Money and got a hand pay.
I did. Josh, Saturday morning kicked off very nicely. I thankfully set up Fastpay on my first hand pay.
Oh, okay.
And thank God I did, because just from initial count, and I don't have my report, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Just from initial count, I think I probably hit 51 hand pays this weekend.
Woo. Yeah, Chris,
I'll tell you this.
We'll get into that.
I mean, we will, but I'll tell you this, Josh. You know how when you first set up hand pay there for the day, they bring out 2 huge forms where they have you initial and draw a line all the way down, all the individual things, and sign at the bottom saying, like, for every one of these, everyone's a jackpot that you hit. I not only went through the first 2 pages, at one point I hit another hand pay on Saturday, and they had to bring me a completely new form to fill out because they said I was out of space.
That's awesome. So you did that on Saturday morning. You hit the Mo Money hand pay. Next thing you went and did was play a little craps, being the good Crap Vegas host that you are.
I had, since Josh completely failed us as an entity last time he was out in Vegas. I played a ton of craps this weekend. I really did. I had a great crap session again. Josh, I only had probably one bad crap session the whole weekend. And by bad, I mean I lost like $1,000.
Right.
I mean, not enough to even matter. It was terrific. I got my free bet chips, and that's something I wanted to point out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
That was a hot button topic for me going into it. A point of frustration, if nothing else. When Josh and I first started playing over at Venetian Palazzo, and they sent us their offers, I think by default at the beginning, they had it listed so that I got X dollars in free bet chips. Like for this trip, I think it was $1,200. It wasn't an ungodly amount, but it was a good amount of chips.
Yeah.
But so, I had that $1,200 in free bet chips. And I told our host I would much prefer free slot play, because anybody that's had free bet chips before at Venetian Palazzo knows that they're single-use chips. So whenever that bet wins or loses, whenever it's resolved, they take that chip and just give you an equivalent chip in real money. And what that means is those chips are worth 50 cents on the dollar. Because if you make a $100 pass line bet with one of their free bet chips and that bet wins, they're going to give you $100 in Venetian real chips. Well, that's not even money. That doesn't work very well. I mean, instead of winning $200, you're winning $100.
Right.
So you're getting 100 for 100. It's half the value of having real chips out on the table. So I would much rather have free slot play. I've told my host in the past, give me free slot play, not chips. And she said, oh, no, not a problem. Just tell me next time before you come and I'll take care of it. Well, fast forward, Josh, a day before my trip, I messaged her because she said at some point when she was confirming my transportation, she's like, oh, and you have $1,200 in free bet chips. I said, thank you. I said, but can I get that in free slot play? I would much prefer that. She said, hold on, let me check. She comes back and says, if you want free slot play, I can give you $600, but you can only have $1,200 if you take the chips. Well, yeah, because they're worth half the value. So no, I can't swap them out interchangeably as she previously stated that I can. And that actually really rubbed me the wrong way, Josh, because it really is cutting the value of the offer in half.
Right. But as it is, it turned out okay. Because you used them on that session and you ended up with a great session.
I think so, Josh. I think probably out of the 12 chips, because they gave me $1,200 chips, of course. That's what they always do. I think out of that, maybe the pass line won 4 times.
Okay.
So I probably got $400 cash off of that $1,200 in free play. Yeah, and I think I could have done a heck of a lot better with slots.
Right.
Or especially video poker or something. But just something to keep in mind there, that they won't interchangeably mix those back and forth.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, I know at Win, our offers are oftentimes, both of us, I think, are coded as table games players at Win. And so they're promo chips, which are better at Win. We don't need to talk about that. But I don't even know if they would entertain switching it or not. I've never asked that question at Win, but they are specifically promo chips for us.
They are, but I think they will swap it out for free credit if you want them to.
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, it's the same thing.
Right. Probably. Yeah. And I don't know about the MGM side, but fortunately I'm coded as a slots player, and you may be going forward too, which we'll talk about.
I think after this trip, I'm permanently a slots player in their system.
So I did want to mention you played that coffee dice session on Saturday morning with Trey.
I
listener
did.
And patron Trey.
Yeah, I had a great time talking to him. I heard feedback after I got home that the only thing he said about me was that I was nice, but I was smaller than he expected.
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
It's because
I don't think
I've
ever said I was tall. I mean, I'm not. But yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's my Kentucky booming voice that just makes me feel larger than I am.
I think that's must be what it is. So then here's where we get to the fun part of the show. So Chris took I said I had an AP play on slots last time I was in Vegas. I mentioned this. Chris didn't believe me. Perceived progression, whatever it's called, perceived something or other. And I said, no, this is an AP slots play. Chris found my NFL slot machine, Chris, and what happened?
Okay, I'll tell you what, Josh. I don't think I've ever had a run like that on a slot machine in my life. And I still want to follow that up by saying the whole perceived progression thing is bullshit. It's completely meaningless.
So you're saying it is really an AP play?
I mean, it is a real phenomenon, and it cost me thousands of dollars. But it is not
real. You see the footballs up at the top of the thing.
Oh my God. Josh, I'll tell you what, man. I texted Josh when I first sat down at that machine. I have never had a run like that on a slot machine in my life. I bet you in a 15-minute window, I hit 10 bonuses, 12 bonuses in 15 minutes.
He was waiting to get paid on one. He was getting another. Yeah.
I even played on all 4 different machines, Josh, and I get hand pays on every one of them. I mean, it was just insane, the luck I was having. I started off betting $20 a pull, and I was getting good hand pays on that. I bumped up to 40 because it was going so well, and I was getting $5,000 hand pays, $7,000 hand pays, just back to back to back. It was crazy. I've never had a run like that, Josh. I ended up turning probably $1,000 in cash that I put into the machine to slot tickets worth probably about 16 grand.
Right. No, Chris was texting me and he was saying things like, I may never leave this machine.
and I did for a very long time.
You kept playing it. I mean, you went back session after session.
Yeah, I went back multiple times and I had pretty good continual luck until Saturday evening.
Right. And so this machine, there's three different main bonuses you can get.
They're all the same bonus. They just give you, it's exactly, if people are trying to understand what this NFL game is, it's exactly like Firelink. That's what it is, where it puts up a grid on the screen, and if you get enough fireballs, it releases the next level taller until the very top, where the top usually has the really good stuff you won. The extra bonuses, the really big numbers of dollar denomination. There are 3 different bonuses, and they can all trigger at once, or they can trigger individually. But all they do is something along the lines of, instead of getting 3 spins before you run out of spins, you now get 4. Or it can randomly give you a football to keep the bonus going if you were about to run out. Or it can come across and bump up the values. Things like that. But it's pretty much the same bonus the whole way across. Doesn't really change it too terribly often. But yeah, Josh had a terrific run on that. And even better than that, Fastpay worked out on the main floor on those machines.
Oh, that's awesome.
As long as you don't hit a progressive. And that is something I have now learned with Fastpay since I've used it a good amount. It doesn't matter where you are playing on the main floor, high limit. If you hit anything that is considered a progressive jackpot that raises over time as you play, those cannot be paid on Fastpay.
Oh, so even if you hit like the major, even if it's a small major, if it's progressing. Oh, interesting.
Doesn't matter. Anything that's a progressive must be hand paid. And even when I was in high limit playing, the guy even came over when he came over to pay out my hand pay that I had coming on like a Texas T machine I was playing at the time.
Right.
He's like, oh, you must have hit a progressive. And I was like, yeah, I did. And he's like, yeah, we can't hand pay that. We have to hand pay those. Even though it wasn't even a big number. It was like $1,000 something dollars on it. That's good to know for the future.
Absolutely. You got the jackpot kick a couple times?
I did. One time really paid off. Got a couple extra grand off of it. But, Josh, it was a lot of fun. But because it was so good, I bought into your perceived progressions of Saturday evening. And what it really was, Josh, is I was probably 10,000 credits away from hitting diamond.
Yes.
And I was like, I might as well go play that slot I like so much and see if I can just grind out diamond real quick. I probably lost $9,000 on that machine without a bonus.
Did you? And you went to the wrong one. You didn't go to the ones with the footballs at the top, did you?
Oh,
you
no.
have to go with the footballs at the top.
Josh, put it this way. I played it all 4 machines in that bank, and I personally got the footballs all to the top on all 4 machines and never got a bonus.
I had one of those too. It's like, I'm due. It's due.
I clearly took all the luck out of those machines early in the day, and they were getting it back from me.
Well, I was teasing Chris when he was having so much luck. I said, well, the good news is I'm not there for 2 weeks, so they'll have time to regenerate.
Oh, no, they'll have time to reset by the time that you get there. You're welcome.
But so, Chris, I mean, at the end, even though you gave some away, you actually, well, first of all, let's kind of cut to the chase. You didn't quite make diamond, but you came super close. You made in less than 24 hours of play.
Yes.
And I mean, that's not even counting. I mean, that's real hours. And then you had sleep in there too, but you only effectively had 1 day and you made what, 48,000 tier points?
48,000 tier credits in 1 day. No bonus multipliers, nothing crazy like that. Just earned tier credits. So yeah, Josh, if I had Sunday morning like we would on a normal trip, I easily would have hit diamond, pretty much their top stated level other than their chairman only invite thing. I hit that in a day.
Which is, I mean, that just shows, and you just had so much luck at that NFL slot machine. You just kind of kept playing that.
I mean, yeah, now don't get me wrong. I kind of broke it down a little bit internally in my own numbers. I think out of that, probably 15,000 of those tier credits were on actual craps.
Right.
The other 33, I think, were slots. But yeah, Josh, I mean, when you're running through $40 a pull over and over and over again with those bonuses coming as frequently as you are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, somebody always asks about like coin in, and I bet you coin in for this trip, I bet you it was north of probably 125, 150,000.
Oh, I
bet you at a minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty large, far, far more than I would ever get, which goes back to your original comment earlier. I bet you I'm coded as a slot player now.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how much your offers go up.
I'll tell you who was most excited about it. Our host.
Our host, yes.
She was extremely excited when she asked. She messaged me that night and said, it appears you took my advice and wanted to play more slots.
You didn't tell me that.
I said, I didn't intend to, but it happened to work out that way. She said, well, I'm glad to see that. That works out really well for you and I both. I like how straightforward she is.
She is, our host at Venetian is pretty awesome. And she is very transparent about the things that, are needle movers and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's the first one to tell you. But no, Josh, that was really good. A couple other things I did want to mention before we completely wrap up my trip. One, also played craps with listener John, Pigskin Pie Gals over on Twitter. Played with him over at Venetian. Again, not a good session. It went really poorly, actually, now that I think about it. So I wasn't very happy about that. Our luck of playing with listeners and not having good dice rolls continues. But it was a lot of fun. And he is the only person I've ever played with, Josh, who has an accent that is stronger than mine.
And it's a Southern accent, right?
It is not. It's a Boston accent. We had a really good conversation about Encore Boston Harbor because he has a lot of strong feelings about that. But yeah, I think his accent is actually harder to understand than mine, if that's possible.
So real quick, before we wrap, did you play any video poker? Any VP stories?
Played a ton of video poker. No great stories. I stuck to mostly Ultimate X. Or if I didn't do Ultimate X, I did 3-line. Some of it, Josh, was 3-line on a $5 machine.
Oh, okay.
So that was a little higher than usual we've been doing. But no, yeah, I played a decent amount of video poker over the weekend. Nothing crazy. Didn't hit anything really good. A couple small hand pays on video poker, playing at like a $5 machine. Nothing crazy. No royals, no 4 aces or anything like that with a kicker. Nothing over the top. But yeah, that was just time filler for me when I was looking for something to switch it up.
All right. Well, that makes sense. I'm glad you had a good trip. You ended up winning, right? Overall, you didn't lose.
Barely. Yeah, I should have walked home a massive winner. I didn't. Like I said, I gave it back to that slot machine right before I left. Did walk away a winner. I didn't owe any money to them when I left. I do, something I mentioned earlier, if you do take out Fastpay at Venetian and Palazzo now, the only way to get your report now is you have to email them and they mail it to you. You can't actually even pick it up in person if you want to.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's really a little change. A craps note I wanted to point out. So you had actually seen this before, and I saw it in person, Josh. So I thought it was something we should mention. The Venetian Palazzo now has a new policy where you cannot make offsetting bets at a craps table. And by offsetting bets, I mean you can't play pass, don't pass. You can't do a do, don't. You can't make a come bet and have a don't come bet. And you can't place a number and lay the same number. They don't allow those bets to go up, period. They strictly block that action now. So there's no such thing as a do, don't better at Venetian Palazzo now.
Unless you're teaming up with somebody or something, getting over.
Yes, you would have to have another person. Right? And then I guess, you could go that direction, but they won't actually allow you to do it anymore.
What do you think about that? I mean, it doesn't bother me, and someone who would never even think
I
about
think
doing
it's
that.
stupid for them to block the action because they still have the
They have the
advantage
edge on both sides, right?
on all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that guarantees that they're going to be a winner.
I wonder, do you think they're just doing it because people are trying to somehow
comps?
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you it's a comp play where some host would rate it and some wouldn't, and this just
Right.
guarantees that no host will rate that action.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I thought that was worth mentioning.
Any other closing notes you want to have? I think that's most of the highlights that I got from all your textuses.
Yeah, 2 closing notes for me, Josh. 1, we've talked about Venetian updating their suites recently.
Mhm.
I've been told that if you're staying in the Venetian Tower, you can start to request upgrades to a newly remodeled suite at the front desk when you check in.
Okay, that's good to know. I wonder, geez, I'm trying to think. Part of me is tempted to do that on my upcoming trip, but at the same time, I like the ESS room and I like being on the Palazzo side. So I don't know that I will even. I mean, I should do it just so we can tell the listeners what the new rooms look like. But
Yeah, I would like to
I
see
don't know if I
that.
will.
And secondly, Josh, even after that trip went pretty darn well financially, had a lot of good luck, earned a lot of tier credits, I'm ready to go back to win.
So why? What
I
is
miss
it
it.
that? Okay, you just miss. You missed
I
the
do.
dealers. You missed just the feel of it. What do you?
You know, and I'll say this, I'm finally getting to the point now playing at Venetian Palazzo,
Uh-huh.
especially at Venetian during the day. I'm
Right.
now to the point where the players remember me. Like I'll
Dealers,
walk up to the
right.
table and a couple of our dealers that you and I both like, as soon as I walked up, oh, hey, Chris, I haven't seen you
Right.
in a little while. How are you doing? Josh was just here a couple weeks ago.
Well, that's
You know,
awesome, yeah.
So they remembered both of us that we come as a package deal.
Yes, the
So,
brothers.
you know, that was kind of exciting to see that the people remember us and how we play. But at the same time, I just don't enjoy playing there on the craps tables as much as I do at Win.
Yeah, I'm with you. And part of that, I was thinking about that, and I'm probably not going to go back to Win, at least at the level I play now. I
Uh-huh.
might go back and kind of, lower play a little bit, kind of the way I used to. But part of the thing I think that makes the Win tables, we've talked about the Win dealers, Rick and Jay, and so many of the dealers that we love over there, but also it tends to be a little lower foot traffic. And part of the thing that turns me off sometimes about the craps tables at Venetian is
Yeah.
just you're right in the middle of all that action.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, people jump in and out, mid-roll buy-ins, some craziness. The one thing I liked a lot about Venetian Palazzo this trip, Josh, is especially in the evenings when they open up all their extra tables,
Mhm.
they almost always have one, if not two $50 tables.
True.
And those tables are always empty at all times. Like I could have walked up to those tables any time of day that they were open. There would never be anybody there. I'm the only person the whole time I was there that was playing at the $50 tables.
We just need to stay up later, as you did.
I guess.
You stayed up
as
till
I
9.
did Friday. Yeah, I
Right.
did. I did Saturday too, Josh, because I didn't take a
You were
nap
on the
before
slot
my
machine.
red eye. So I played until 10:30 at night.
Wow.
I know, craziness, huh? I think that's it for me, Josh. That wraps up my trip. I had a good time, earned a ton of credits, and like you, I am interested to see what my next Venetian Palazzo offer looks like.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Okay, so after the break, we'll answer some listener questions and more, so stick around. Josh, we haven't talked about our friends over at Travel Zork in 2 weeks, so why don't we mention a couple things that we love them for?
Let's talk for just a second, Chris, about Travel Zork Travel itself. So we've mentioned it before. You all know, if you're regular listeners to the show, Michael and the team at Travel Zork specialize in really luxury travel all over the world. If you want to take a really nice trip to a 4 or 5-star property, that's what Travel Zork is there to help you out with. They can certainly help with Vegas, not helping you with getting comps or anything like that. But if you're really wanting an over-the-top trip to Vegas, Travel Zork can help you out. But where I've used them, and I think where Chris has used them before, is for planning really nice trips outside of Vegas. I mean, if you're looking for a great trip to Hawaii, Michael and the team can help you out. A great trip to Iceland, anywhere in Europe, all sorts of exotic venues, cruises. They can help you out with all of those things, even with airline travel if you want to go that route. Michael and the team are fantastic. Their customer service is second to none, and they can help you out with anything you want to do that's a trip that you want to be extra special.
Yeah, I've always had great experiences when I work with Michael to do some of my bookings when I was traveling with my family in places I wasn't as familiar with. There was always a little extra touch that he threw in that I wasn't expecting, whether it was like a little small gift when I arrived or even just a thank you letter from the property. Some really cool things like that. So I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. That is either travelzork.com, or if you're interested in Zorkfest, that's travelzork.com/Zorkfest. Okay, so listener questions. We got a question from patron Timmy over on our CV Facebook group, actually. Timmy said he has an amateur question. He has some resort credit over at MGM, Josh, and he's staying at Vidara. Can he use that resort credit at any MGM property? And can he charge all that F&B back to his room at Vidara no matter where he's eating and staying?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of one of the really cool things about MGM, and I think Caesars is probably this way too, but MGM, even if you're staying at Vidara, which doesn't have much, you can go to any MGM property and charge it all back to your room at Vidara. And for me, that means, going to the patisserie and getting my candy, whatever at Aria and charging it back to Vidara. But absolutely. And you get more. I think you get a little more at Vidara than you do at the Bellagio and Aria. I think that's how they're tiered. I think you get one level more, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Josh. And there was a little bit of a hiccup there for a while with Cosmo when they first integrated where you weren't able to do that. But I think all those problems have now been resolved. So yeah, if you're staying at any MGM property, go crazy. Eat anywhere you want. Bounce around to all their nice restaurants. Just charge it back to your room. They'll ask you what property and what room number. Check your ID and you're all set.
Yeah, and if you are comfortable staying in one of those lower end properties, where you usually get a ton more F&B,
yes.
Like you could stay at Excalibur Luxor and get their maximum F&B and then go eat at a fancy restaurant, go eat at the newly renovated Prime or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question from Derek over on the CV Facebook group. Derek said, how do you guys convince your wife or significant other to go to Vegas solo? My wife thinks I'll end up with a prosty if I go without her.
So, Derek, good question. And Chris, maybe you can answer with your girlfriend. But for me, as someone that's been married for a long time, I probably told this story somewhere. But my first date with my wife, we were talking about where we like to travel and stuff. And I said, I love Vegas. And so she kind of realized, and she does too, but kind of differently. And hers is a little more shopping and she doesn't gamble at all. And really doesn't like to go as often, but she knows I love to go. And I think, pretty trustworthy and don't get myself into trouble. My main vice is gambling, a little drinking. And I think I think she's comfortable and we've been together long enough. She trusts me to not go too out of bounds. And I know not every relationship is like that. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do it comfortably. I was an only child. And so I'm very comfortable doing stuff on my own. I like solo road trips. I like that time alone in whatever way. So this is just an outlet for me to do that and gamble at the same time.
I'm right there with you, Josh. I don't mind solo trips at all. I never hesitate, no matter what it is that I would be doing solo. Like I would take a cruise by myself sometime if I wanted to. It wouldn't bother me at all. I really enjoy that part. I will say that when I read his email and he said his wife thinks that he's going to end up with a prosty, I really thought he was talking about a prostate exam. And I was trying to figure out how that was going to help. Like how that happens in Vegas. Then it clicked for me and I was like, oh, now I understand what he's talking about. Yeah, good question though. I mean, I was married for 10 years and my ex-wife used to come with me to Vegas a decent amount and I'd go solo a decent amount. I think if you're open with them and just straightforward and they know you enjoy it, then just, you can make it work. You can. Right. I'm not saying it's the easiest thing. And some people will be less trustworthy than others, I guess, on that line. But even now, I mean, quite frankly, Josh, I'm not married right now. So I really don't care what anybody else says. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. Good luck trying. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think every relationship is different. Some people are more comfortable than others. Sure. And I can see how, the idea of your significant other, whoever your partner going off to Vegas alone can weird some people out. And yes, I get that for sure. So it's not something everybody can do. And I'm thankful that I get to.
I mean, as a happily divorced person now, Josh, I think I'm the one that's able to say this, but quite frankly, if they don't trust you to go to Vegas by yourself, then there's some trust commitment issues there that probably need to be worked through before you get too much further.
There you go. That's our psychoanalysis for today.
Final question from over on the CV Facebook group from Sean. Hey everyone, after a recent attempt to stay on Fremont Street, I'm confident it's time to return to MGM properties on the Strip. It's been a few years since I have stayed and gambled at any MGM properties on the Strip, and my gambling habits have changed dramatically. I am comfortable with $25 minimum carnival games, $50 blackjack, and bet around $125 is my starting bet per shooter with a press-heavy strategy. Number of place numbers is based on table minimum. I'm planning to get a $5,000 to $10,000 credit line with a comfortable trip budget of approximately $7,500 for gambling. Any
Okay.
suggestions from MGM players on the best MGM property to call home for a gambler like him, Josh?
Good question, Sean. Thank you. Did Sean say how long his trip would be?
He didn't, but let's
Okay.
say for our
A
discussion
weekend.
purposes, it's a weekend, 2 nights,
Okay.
3 days.
So your budget is $7,500 for a weekend. That's not bad at all.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I think you can aim for. You don't have to make your home base Excalibur or Luxor for that.
No.
I mean, you could do easy. You could do the middle MGM properties, Park or New York, or kind of along that line, and be just fine. And honestly, for a weekend, you could even do Aria and Bellagio, and I think you'd be treated nicely with that.
Yeah. I think with that kind of average bet, Josh, if we're just talking craps, I mean, on the crap side, $125, depending on what the bet is, how many numbers. So if it's a quarter table, he's playing 4 or 5 numbers. He'd fit in pretty well there. And you can always get a quarter table at Aria, pretty
Yeah.
much. It's rare that it's $50 or more at all times there. And there's always going to be a quarter table. I think it just really comes down to, would you rather be a lower end player at Aria Bellagio, or would you rather be a more mid-level to higher level player at, MGM Grand, Park MGM, New York, one of those places?
Yeah, and I think you're more likely to get, if it's important to you, a suite at one of those middle tier properties and that kind of stuff. And you get more, as we kind of touched on earlier, you'll get more F&B and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me at that level, I'd be inclined to do one of the more mid-level properties and just walk over and play at a Aria, Bellagio, whatever it is that you want to do, but stay at the slightly lower place to get the extra credit, the nicer room, and do all that.
Yeah, I like that as a place to make your home. Good luck. I'm glad. I'm not surprised that your Fremont Street experience didn't assuage you over to the MGM side.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. But thank you for the questions this week, guys. We appreciate it. Patreon. That is patreon.com/crapvegas. What do we have new over there, Josh?
So we started a new CVTV over on Patreon this week. We did the very first, actually half of the very first episode of, I think it's Las Vegas Revealed or Las Vegas Secrets Revealed, which was a show that came out in the early aughts, like 2003 or something, and looking at some hotel suites. And so Chris and I watched that together and kind of commented on these old suites that they were looking at on the show. It was actually a lot of fun to think about.
It was.
There was one suite that had 19 phones in it. So we had a lot of fun. It
turns out back then phones were very important, and the number of phones, the quantity, I mean, that dictated how luxurious a suite was.
And there were phones everywhere. Phone in an elevator, phone everywhere. Anyway, we had a lot of fun with that. We're going to continue those CVTVs with that show for a little bit off and on. We always try and do fun stuff over on the Patreon side, whether it's those earnings calls, CVTV, talking about just our backstories and interesting things in our lives as they revolve around Vegas or gambling. We try and make it special over on Patreon. So really appreciate you guys joining us over on that side as well.
Yeah. And of course, we started our bracket challenges recently, Josh. We had free entry for our patrons over there for a couple different ones. We have our high roller one that's running right now. I don't think I'm doing too terribly well, but I'll be interested to see
better than
who comes
I
out on
am,
top.
at least last time I checked.
No, you were terrible last time.
But
terrible. That's okay. You tried your hardest. New members the past couple weeks, Josh. Big thank you to Mike C., Justin C., no relation, but Justin C. was a KCS member.
Thanks, Justin.
Edgar F., Bill with an annual KCS membership, the best thing that you can do for us. We appreciate that, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Lane C., and Terry R. with a KCS membership. So thank you for everybody that's been trying that recently. I know a lot of you have come over on the free trial, and I've got really nice messages from a bunch of you saying how you love the content once you got over there. So I assume that's probably what will happen for most people. There's a lot to listen to, a lot to watch, especially if you want to go back in the catalog. So give it a look and see if you like it.
Yes, and one more thing to point out, we've changed our ad structure a little bit on our main show. You'll hear probably, if you're over on the Patreon side, you get ad-free.
Yes, ad-free is a big thing for a lot of people I know. So yeah, join us over there if you don't want to hear the ads. Upcoming trips. Josh, when are you in Vegas? Now?
Let's see. No, I'm not. No, I would be sure and tell you if this were the Temporal Paradox show. So I'm in Vegas, let's see, April 4th through the 8th, staying at the VP, playing some VP at the VP. Okay. And already have lots of listener meetups scheduled.
Sure.
Going to be all sorts of fun. It's really going to be a fun trip. I'm excited about it. Going to try and do some of the usual stuff. Try not to always play Chris's NFL slot machine. We'll see how that goes. But There's a new Huff and Puff. I don't know if they have it at VP, but I've been seeing about the Huff and Puff high rise. I don't know if it's at Venetian Palazzo, but I'm excited to see that if I can find it.
Interesting.
There's talk about a trip downtown. We'll see if I go downtown.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And then you and I think we're going to take a trip together sometime in the next 60 days, right?
Yes, I think our plan is maybe late May, early June, somewhere in that target range. We have yet to see where we're going to stay.
Right?
There may be arm wrestling involved.
I was going to say, because I don't really want to go to MGM. You don't really want to go to Wynn. I'd like to do something different. I don't know. We'll see what happens, Josh. We'll have to have an argument off air about this. No, definitely not. Friendly reminder, subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app and to visit our merch store over at crapvegas.com/shop. And a big thing just to point out there, we would love to have some more reviews. I haven't seen many recently.
Yeah.
I think everybody that wanted to leave a review has left a review.
5 stars only, please.
Yes, please. And if you're a newer listener, please head on over there and leave us a nice review if you like us. And if you don't, shoot me a mean email, but don't leave a negative review. That hurts my feelings.
Right. You can tell us sign up for Patreon, give us a mean comment over on Patreon, and we appreciate that.
That would be much appreciated. But Josh, I think we've made it this far. What's on the big wheel today?
All right, let's give it a spin.
It's time to spin the Crap Vegas big wheel. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm always ready, Josh. I was built for
wheel.
Okay. You were. I don't know.
Some college basketball teams are built for March. I'm built for the big wheel.
I used to say I'm built for comfort, not for speed.
Okay, what you got first up on the wheel?
Well, Chris, you might, if you were guessing what just came up on the wheel, I bet you could guess this one. It's about the Barbary Coast. No, it's about Bill's Gambling Hall. No, it's about the Cromwell. No, it's about the Vanderpump.
The Vanderpump. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a Cromwell renaming redesign in the past 3 or 4 years, so it's time to do it again.
I was looking, though. It's actually been the Cromwell since 2014, so it made it 11 years.
I mean, that's not terrible. It's longer than I thought.
Yeah.
And I remember playing there a ton when they first opened and how much I love the place. I think it will be good for it. It needs some new love and some new attention. I just really hope they get back to what made that place so special, which was the really good gambling rules that have disappeared.
I'm not necessarily seeing that with a Vanderpump, but
I'm not either. But that was my hope with them redoing it.
I think, I mean, for me, and I've never been to a Vanderpump's. I've heard that the drinks are good. I'm sure they have pink drinks that I would like.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I think, Chris, to me, the Cromwell doesn't really have an identity much right now.
It does not. I agree.
And I think that for good or bad, I think Vanderpump will give it an identity that probably it's missing.
I think you're right on that. It needs something. It used to be known for these bold colors and amazing service and these boutique hotel rooms and great gambling rules. And, it had the coffee bars on a couple floors of the hotel that was unique. All that stuff has disappeared. So nothing can hurt. I mean, there's nothing that Vanderpump can do that's going to make this place worse than it is now.
No. All right, let's give the wheel another spin, Chris.
Please.
Oh, this one's a little bit of a sad note.
Okay.
But wanted to give a little RIP to Norm Clark,
who we actually talked about recently on a Patreon episode.
Yes, by a kind of an unfortunate coincidence, this was in the last CVTV. He made an appearance on this Las Vegas Secrets Revealed show. And I said, oh, that's Norm Clark. And little did we know that he was soon to pass. But so Norm Clark, if you didn't know, he started out as a reporter for the AP. And I think he wanted to be remembered as a reporter rather than a gossip columnist. But what Vegas fans know, and kind of where I first kind of came across him, was as I think his column was officially called Vegas Confidential, but basically the gossip columnist, celebrity gossip columnist for Vegas for 17 years, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a long time.
And it was this, he had a famous eye patch. You may or may not know Norm Clark, but the picture of him, you couldn't miss Norm Clark because he looked a little like a pirate with this eye patch.
Yar.
And so, Chris, I was looking a little bit as this just came up on the wheel, and I was looking a little bit at Norm Clark stories.
Yeah.
And he broke, as far as his celebrity breaking news stories, he broke Britney Spears' infamous 55-hour marriage in Las Vegas in 2004.
Oh, wow. Good for him. Yeah.
He broke
Cutting
that
edge.
news. He broke Michael Jackson's secret move to Vegas in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And two funny stories that I thought you'd get a kick out of. So he and Chris Angel got into it one time, Chris, at Planet Hollywood. So apparently Chris Angel's girlfriend was in the 2008 Miss USA pageant.
Okay.
And I guess Clark reported that Angel had tried to convince a judge to give the girlfriend high marks, to give his girlfriend high marks. And Chris Angel then got into it with Norm Clark and said, if you ever write another word about me, you'll need an eye patch over your other eye.
Oh, wow. That's the kind of beef that I like, Josh. We need more of that.
See, this is the celebrity gossip stuff that's fun. The other one, Chris, I thought was a lot of fun too. So this was at the 9 Steakhouse. Did you ever eat there at Palms?
I did not.
But anyway, Clark ran into Pete Rose at the 9 restaurant. And I guess Clark had a bit of a history with Pete Rose. He'd written unflatteringly about him when he was an AP columnist in Cincinnati. So he'd written a book called The 1,000 Naked Truths, in which he ranked Pete Rose number 5 out of the 10 worst celebrity tippers.
Oh, that was nice of him.
So one time they're at this restaurant and Clark called out to Rose. Rose waved and started to walk away. Then I think probably realized who Norm Clark was and came over and slapped him across the face.
Oh, wow. I'm more excited, Josh, about that tip list. Is J-Lo
I know. That's a good, yeah, you've heard. That was funny when he was married to, the first time, married to with Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck.
Affleck,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think he's a good
He was
tipper.
married to the Affleck duck, yes.
The duck, yeah. He was a good tipper, but she was a terrible tipper. And I remember
He'd put
hearing
tip downs and she would take it off the table and say, like, you don't deserve this. Wow, that's unfortunate.
Anyway, those are just two funny Norm Clark stories, but I thought he was I remember Robin Leach also towards the end of his life becoming a Vegas celebrity gossip columnist kind of person. Norm Clark was always fun for me as a fan of Vegas news to kind of pay attention to who he was talking about and that kind of thing. So big RIP there.
Do you think we killed him off by talking about him on a recent episode? Did
It
we
was
jinx
a very strange, funny coincidence.
I mean, that's a name I'd never even heard of.
No,
And
Chris
you
didn't know who he was.
And you brought it up on the show, I think, or he popped up on the show. You started talking about him and literally within a couple days dead.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign for people.
If for the patrons we mentioned on the show, sorry.
It's been a good run. Enjoy it while you can. Josh, anything else before we get out of here?
That's all we got. I'm excited for Vegas. Oh, you want to hear about Leavenworth? No, just kidding.
No, God, no. I mean, what are they paying us advertisement wise at this point? I mean, are you pocketing it and just not sharing? What is going on?
If we talk about it enough, maybe they'll turn up on the end of the episode ads.
I know. Good Lord. Anyways, Josh, this has been a lot of fun. We appreciate all of you listening and we shall talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting crapvegas.com.
See you in Vegas.
You can join us over on Twitter. Send us a message there. That is at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13 or the show
It's also
page is
X.
Okay, fine. Do it over. Jesus.
No, you were just going to keep going. I was just going to throw that in.
But Josh, I got out to Venetian Panazzo?
Panazzo?
Is that a place? Pinocchio? And again, I was just not having any luck on the sluts. Sluts. No. Oh, jeez. Can he use that resort credit at any MGM? Why can't I say MGM? Why am I trying to combine it into
You're having a
one
lot of
today?
trouble with this question.
I don't know.
Timmy,
Maybe I'm tired.
you're axed. No.
God damn it, Timmy. He wants to know if he can use that art. Fuck, what? What is going on? Perfect.